Hello, AP Seminar teachers. If you feel like you're juggling a dozen different things with this course, you are definitely not alone. It's an amazing class to teach, but let's be honest, it is also one of the most complex to manage. So in this explainer, we're going to bring some much-needed clarity to your calendar. And when we say complex, we really mean it. For just this one course, you are managing a staggering 6 distinct assessments all year long. That is a huge undertaking that requires some serious time management from both you and your students. So the big question is, right, how in the world do you manage this marathon of assessments and deadlines while also making sure your students can get their best possible scores? That's exactly what we're going to break down right now. So here's our game plan. First, we'll decode the 2 sets of deadlines. Then we'll get really clear on the difference between HSID and College Board submissions. After that, we'll look at the AP Seminole Marathon as a whole, map out a tactical plan for your classroom, and finally, talk about what to do if you happen to get off track. All right, Section 1, decoding the deadlines. So why does HISD have its own deadlines, separate from the College Board? The short answer? It's not to create extra work for you. It's to create a safety net for your students. Think of the HISD deadlines as a support system. They're there to make sure students are making steady progress instead of cramming everything in at the very end. We've learned from experience that without these checkpoints, students do miss that final deadline. These internal dates also protect students from last-minute tech problems or personal emergencies. And, since the district funds these pretty expensive exams, they provide accountability, making sure that investment pays off for everyone. Okay, moving on to Section 2. This is probably the most important part of this whole explainer, really understanding the huge difference between an HISD deadline and a College Board deadline. They are not the same thing at all. This slide really lays it all out. Think of the HSISD deadline as a flexible safety net. It's for drafts. When the district checks, we're literally just looking for those little orange triangles in the digital portfolio to see that a submission has been made. It's a progress check with plenty of time left for revision. But the College Board deadline? That's a locked gate. It is for the final polished work, and it is a hard, unchangeable deadline with 0 extensions. Let me be crystal clear about this. The College Board deadline is absolutely non-negotiable. If that work isn't submitted by the final date and time, the system literally closes. You and your students will be completely locked out. There are no do-overs, no second chances, no exceptions. And this is exactly why our internal deadlines are so critical. Okay, on to Section 3, the AP Seminar Marathon. And we call it a marathon for a reason. The pacing is intentionally spread out across the entire school year, both to manage the massive workload and to navigate the realities of the school calendar. And this slide right here shows exactly why that pacing is so important. I mean, look at this. You're guiding students through 6 major assessments: the IRR, the TMP, the IWA, the IMP, the oral defenses, and then on top of all that, the end-of-course exam. It is a lot to fit into one school year. And here's how that all looks on the calendar. The PT1 draft is due in November, well before winter break. The P2 stimulus materials drop in January, with that draft due in early March. This is all very strategic. It gives you all of March and April for revisions and presentations. Notice our suggested final submission date is April 24th. That builds in a crucial buffer week before the absolute hard deadline from College Board on April 30th. This whole structure is designed to free up May so you can focus on EOC prep. And remember, this pacing wasn't just created in a vacuum. It strategically works around the realities of the school year. All the holidays, PD days, and other interruptions are already factored in. It's designed to be realistic, but it absolutely requires you to stay on schedule to make it all work. Which brings us to Section 4, your tactical plan. Now that we understand the why behind all this, let's talk about the how. How do you translate this district calendar into a practical plan for your own classroom? So the foundation of your plan starts with a non-negotiable rule from the College Board. You have to give students a window of 30 school days for Performance Task 1 and another 30 school days for Performance Task 2. Our district calendar is built around this rule, so we've already done that counting for you. Now, here's where you've got to do your own classroom math. It is so easy to forget to budget time for the presentations themselves. A team presentation can take up to 15 minutes, and an individual one up to 13. I really want you to take a moment and calculate that. If you have, say, 8 teams and 25 individual students, how many full class periods is that going to take? The answer is probably a lot more than you think. And on top of just the timing, remember there are some really strict logistical requirements. Every presentation must be live and in person. You have to record every single one. And you have to keep those recordings on file for a full year in case of a College Board audit. This all just adds another layer to your planning. So here's your tactical checklist. First, count up your students and your groups. Second, calculate the total class time you'll need for all the presentations. Third, and this is the big one, block that time out on your calendar, like right now. Fourth, build in some buffer days for stuff like absences and assemblies. And finally, protect that time at the end of the year to prep for the EOC exam. Okay, let's move into our final section, getting back on track. Look, even with the best plan, things can happen. So what do you do if you fall behind? The most important thing to remember here is that communication is not optional. It is a professional requirement. So let's just be direct about it. What do you do if you realize you are not going to meet an HISD draft deadline? The one thing you absolutely cannot do is ignore it. It is so important that you communicate proactively. If you reach out with a detailed plan to get caught up, we can work together and support you. But a missed deadline with no communication will require us to contact your campus administrators. And this isn't to be punitive. It's all about making sure we have support and accountability for our students. Your recovery plan needs to be specific, and it needs to be submitted right away. It should have 3 key parts. First, just acknowledge the deadline that was missed. Second, provide a new realistic timeline. And most importantly, explain your strategy for making sure every single one of your students still meets that final, non-negotiable College Board deadline. Please remember, you are not alone in this. The tools are there to help you succeed. The IPG, the official pacing guide, and the district calendar, those are your blueprints. Following them is the surest way to stay on track. And if you need help with planning, please just reach out. So, to wrap this all up, remember that proactive planning is your absolute best defense. It protects your students from predictable problems and all that last-minute stress. So I'll leave you with this question. Looking at your own schedule, what is one small adjustment you can make to your calendar this week to better position your students for success? Thank you so much for taking the time to go through this explainer with me. Remember, a solid plan now is going to make all the difference for you and for your students come April and May. You've got this.